How did you
involved,
draw the conclusion?
yeah, you know that I was involved in a whole bunch of different things, where I was the center and
Right.
the number one player in those things. Satrup never ever used my quotes for what happened with things like Ratha Yatra in 1970 that I was 100% in charge of and did everything about. But what he did was he quoted Tamal, who's in Los Angeles with Srila Prabhupada, describing what I was doing, even though Tamal really didn't have any idea what I was doing, except for what people told him. So, and I checked out all these other things. Everything he did was to establish the 11 gurus as the authority, and everybody else either supported him or was left out. I was never against them all. It's just that I wasn't a guru, so therefore I couldn't be an authority. Only gurus could be authorities. Does that make sense? Hello?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I was muted. So the main purpose for Satsarup writing the Lilamrita was not to glorify Srila Prabhupada, but was for establishing themselves as successor acharyas or bogus gurus or initiators, whatever you want to call them.
Precisely. That's exactly what it was for. Because if you read it, I mean, they did hundreds of hours of tapes of different devotees. Practically none of that got into the Lilamrita. And Satsarup made up tons of stuff just out of his imagination. I started reading it, and I skipped through it here and there, but I never read it further after he says, Abhay Charan was walking down the road and he saw a dog that was covered with fleas or disease, and he was thinking, oh yes, that is the condition. And I mean, who the hell is he to define what Prabhupada was thinking?
Right.
If you look at the Lilamrita and go through it, you'll see that it's all his, but remember, he's a guru, so he can do no wrong. He can't make a mistake because he's supposedly on the same level as Prabhupada. So whatever he writes has to be accepted as the truth.
Wow.
Even though he's making it up, is rather bad, ill-worded fiction. Yeah, when I was in Berkeley, I came to his weird house trailer thing with old office desks from thrift stores in it, and he was sort of behind one. I came up these steps, and he looked at me, and he said resignedly, I imagine you are here, I guess you are here about the Lilamrita. I didn't say a word about I just said Hare Krishna, but on my humble basis is like that. You must be here about the Lilamrita. I looked at him sardonically and I said, oh, I see. There must have been many people coming before me, if that's how you think, why you think I came. And so that went into a whole conversation until he got to the part where I said, you know, Satsarup, I did come to take fault with your Lilamrita because I think I have a degree in English literature. I know all the rules of authorship. I know the rules of everything. And I said that you made your story, etc. I will say the greatest thing that you actually accomplished was that you got all of those tapes, hundreds of tapes of firsthand recollections by devotees and the transcripts, tapes and transcripts, so that at some point, someone else can look at those, listen to those tapes and read those transcripts with a cool state of mind and write a real history of Srila Prabhupada.
Wow.
I said
you told him that. Wow.
Right
he must
to
have
his
been
face.
shocked. Right.
Well, he's very
Cringing,
tall,
probably.
but he was sliding down in his chair until practically his nose was touching the desk. And I said, this is after some conversation, then I said, you do have the tapes and the transcripts, don't you? I figured they should be in a, like where they keep, valuable jewels in Switzerland or something of that sort,
Right.
He looked at me sort of like desperately and pitifully at the same time. I said, I sat up straight, practically in a mood of a person to execute the person I'm talking to. And I said, you do have those, don't you? Where are they? I said, in that sort of, my Mars and Saturn voice.
What did he say?
He said, he started stammering. He said, well, the Prabhus put them in a shed at Gita Nagri. And I said, yes. And the shed burned down.
Oh my God. Krishna.
So I sat up. I stood up 1 inch from killing him.
Wow.
Which might have not been such a bad idea. But anyhow,
right.
I stood and I looked at him ferociously and I started to go out because there was nothing else to say. If you want to hear the bullshit, read the Lila Amrita. So I looked at him and I said, I see you have taken the precaution of being the only biographer of Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Only biographer.
Yeah, the only biographer, because he destroyed the source material. All you have is what he wrote, which was fictional. A lot of it was fictional. Yes. He put in a lot of little tiny books, red books of Prabhupada quotes, and he had some little drops of nectar. When I started reading the little drops of nectar, I realized they were vicious. So I began to call the books little drops of poison.
Wow, wow.
So I left there and I realized that things were irretrievably bad.
Very bad. What year was this? Narayan Prabhu, you remember? Right after Srila Prabhupada left? 78, 79?
No. It's sometime in the 80s. It took him 2 years just to collect, at least 2 years from when he started to do the project, which was probably 81 or 82. It took him a couple of years. He had this guy with a mustache that used to work for the CIA, going around and recording everybody. He made I think like 4 hours of recording of my recollections of Srila Prabhupada.
What do you mean 4 hours of recording?
Well, I sat there and talked into the microphone for 4 hours.
Oh, for you. You're
me. Can you imagine other people had even more association than I did? What they could have done? There were hundreds of tapes. Hundreds of tapes.
Wow. Hundreds of tapes. Wow.
Yeah. This is like, Jesus. Did he live? Did he not live? Who knows? There's no real proof that he existed and no real proof that he didn't exist. And what about the Gospels? They were written 75 years after he was gone. Back in those days, 75 years was like 2 lifetimes,
Mm-hmm. Right.
You keep going down that path and you realize there's nothing. There's nothing to establish Jesus was actually present. You talk about the different Gospels, and then you go to the Council of Nicaea, it's all chopped and butchered all the way down. So that's what Satsarup, a Catholic, did to his
Wow.
the Gospels of Srila Prabhupada. Instead of 4 disciples writing 4 Gospels, you had hundreds of disciples writing Gospels.
Wow. Yeah.
And he allowed them to be destroyed.
This Satsarup, and you think he purposely burned it up?
I'm sorry?
You think he purposely burned the transcripts and the tapes and all that? You think so?
Oh, well, he said that the Prabhus, meaning his disciples,